As you've probably guessed at this point, I'm a nerd, but specifically I'm a nerd for the Halo games. I've played them for as long as I can remember. I read the books, listen to the music. It's a series I hold really close to my heart. It's only now, though, I've really been given the chance to talk about it. Today I'll be talking about Halo 5 Guardians' Armour, specifically the designs of it. I appreciate that this is old news, though. The game did come out in 2015, so this ship has already set its own course and reenacted that Titanic film, which is about a boat or something. So yeah, I appreciate that all that has been said about this game has been said to death, and pretty much all aspects have been covered, but I think in the design department I have something to add. Plus Infinite is on the horizon, so... Well, actually, no, it's not. I mean, it was delayed, but I wrote the script first. I'm going to present this as more of a video about design rather than just a video of me speed drawing something. So hopefully you can get something from this video, even if you don't care about Halo or don't really, think about it, it's not interesting to you. This is just the subject of what I'm trying to convey. To be honest, the game presents a lot of what you don't do when you look closer at what it's got on to offer about art and design. It's like, there's a lot wrong with it, and we'll be poking a bit of fun at it, because honestly, when you see what this game has presenting, it's However, before we cover that, we've got to cover context. So if you already know everything there is about Halo, or you know the story roughly, or you understand the system of progression in Halo 5, you can skip to the time on screen, because those who don't know, I think it is important to understand exactly everything wrong with this system, because it is fucking bad. If you're just the art, then skip to the time on screen. Otherwise, let's get on with it. So what are the Spartans exactly? The events of Halo are set in the 26th century, a time where humanity has developed faster than light travel. The United Nations Space Command, or the UNSC, is humanity's leading military and exploratory force. They encounter a covenant of alien races under the banner of the Covenant, who declare an ideologically motivated genocide of the entire human race. Throughout this conflict, we play as a Spartan, a cybernetically enhanced superhuman in armour, our goal being to save humanity from the Covenant Empire. It's pretty baller stuff, there is more to it than that. But that's like the base context you need to understand what Spartans are, really, to be honest. Anyway, the multiplayer of the Halo games, where you just shoot the fuck out of other people, has let you customize your own Spartan for many years, but throughout my time playing the most recent game in the series, Halo 5, many issues have come up and bugged me, really. Issues that were already addressed in previous games, but allow me to demonstrate what these issues are. Quantity over quality. This is a big problem that the game has, because it feeds into many minor problems the game has and makes them exponentially worse. However, I won't be spending too much time on this subject, because it is mostly issues with the UI and the actual game itself rather than the art and design. The sheer number of cosmetic pieces in-game clutter the menus and makes searching for what you want annoying. The problem also affects progression and rewards. So in Halo games of past, you could unlock pieces of armour and helmets via earning achievements, grinding, or actually purchasing what you want with XP earned in-game. In Halo 5, it's a slot machine, essentially. You play the game, earn points, and with them purchase packs, of which include 2 permanent cosmetic items. Okay, so how many of these things are there? Well, there are 1,032 things, so you have no control over what you unlock gradually. This ruins progression. You can pay an extra couple of quid if you want, because, it's monetized, as everything is nowadays in the video game industry. Now, onto the actual art portion of the video. That's what this channel is about, after all. Since 2001, with the release of Halo Combat Evolved, the first game in the series, the Spartans have always had a general look about them. It has varied throughout the games, as has the general design of all of the assets of everything in-game, but it's always had consistencies. Halo has always had that military kind of feel to it, because it is a military shooter, it is sci-fi. It was always pulled from our own militaries, namely the United States military. That's been a theme since day one in Halo, and it's only really changed as of, it would be 2012. Don't get me wrong, there isn't anything wrong with change specifically, but video games are interesting in this regard. Between sequels and game releases, the developers of video games have to strike a fine line between consistency and innovation. Change not enough, your games become boring. Change too much, your game can feel unfamiliar. Halo suffered the latter in late 2012, when the company who originally developed the old Halo games changed, and Halo 4 was released with a new company, 343 Industries. Along with the art itself, Spartan armor changed. I won't say the change was for the better or the worse, but here are my observations. The armor and the undersuit became separate assets. The undersuit now has colour. Waist and groin armour has been removed for freedom purposes. Freedom in movement, I should say. Armour seems to have a more pronounced shoulder blade effect. Various other additions for movement and freedom have been made, like lowering the shoulders and having less sort of bandy kind of armour, I suppose. I did like this design of Spartan at the time, but upon the release of Halo 5, these assets and ideas were kept and brought along, and that's when these changes became problems. Armour ineffectivity and overall over-detailing affect many of the armours and helmets in Halo 5. Probably all of them, to be honest, and you'll be able to see that as we go through. Such as this helmet, Viper. I mean, I guess it looks okay. It's a little bit big and a bit of a weird shape, but why does he need all of this clutter on the visor? It's like, surely something smooth and simple, like in previous games, would have been fine. Why does he need that coin slot thing in his fucking eye, you know? I mean, does he take 20s, or... I mean, I'd put it at the back, but I mean, it looks like he'd get in the way of things he's looking at, you know what I mean? It's exactly the same with this guy, Freebooter. I mean, for one, we've already got a helmet that's looked like this since Halo 3, but why does he have that bit on the front? I just don't understand. His, like, eyebrows are really low or something. But what are the purpose of, like, the handles on his back and on the back of his head? Like, I mean, I know times are hard, but surely they don't need any help actually carrying their helmets when they take it off. Or, well, I mean, surely, you know, I mean, it's already been brought up in previous videos that done by better people than me, but, like, surely enemies could, like, grab them and, like, pull a Spartan over. Was polka dots the design brief? I mean, it's, like, everywhere. On his knee pads, on his shoulders, on his fucking elbows. Why has he got a bit in his mouth? It just looks like fucking Covenant see this. They take the piss out of you, you know what I mean? I mean, he looks unwell. Fucking Jesus. I mean, this guy has a pretty fitting name, to be honest. We talk about names. Breaker, what a name that is. I mean, it is broken after all. Quick question, like, why does he have a visor on the back of his head? Are these Spartans, like, disabled in some way? Has he got an eye back there? Why do you need that specifically there? And why does he have handles everywhere? It's like coat hangers on the back of his back. See what I mean by that shoulder blade thing I mentioned? It's like it's gone over the top here. Why? What is the objective of that? I just don't know. Why is so much of the undersuit, like, exposed? You'd surely think something that was supposed to be void hardened and sealed would be, like, you know, actually those things.
Am I dead yet?
The last point I want to make here is about armor ineffectivity. Now, we've covered that with things like fucking Breaker, but it's a problem that all of these armors have, all the ones in game, including returning ones from like Halo 4. They lack any protection, well, there. Now, I appreciate that this isn't an issue that started in Halo 5, it started in Halo 4, and I do know why this choice was made. It frees up movement, and this makes sense in armors like Wetwork, Hunter, I guess maybe Venator, because they're like assassins, you know, you expect them to be light and nimble, hence why their armors is designed that way. But what about Atlas? You'd expect an armor that is described as heavy and over-engineered to have protection there, you know, it just baffles my mind. And I personally think the helmet is just really ugly, and again, like, why is so much crap thrown on the visor again? How about this armor, Dynast? It's supposed to be a close range / brawler kind of variant, but I just want more waist protection if I intend on punching this fucking guy in the face. Goblin, Fucking Jesus. So much of the undersuit is like exposed. I mean, I know in lore, these things are sturdy. They're not like, your average housecoat. But like, there's a reason you put armour on top of it. There's a reason. You know what I mean? I'm sure you don't need me to tell you that the fucking helmet is horrible and all. Missed opportunities in context. This one loosely ties into the last points I made, and you probably can pick out, like, I don't know, Breaker for not doing what it's supposed to do. But a lot of these armours kind of lack individuality and miss opportunities that would make them stand out from the rest. Like, I didn't realise how similar these 4 armours are. Cypher, Vector, Scout and Maverick. I mean, I can't tell them apart besides their helmets, and not all of the helmets look very good. I mean, Nomad is kind of okay, I guess. I mean, it's a bit boring if you ask me, personally. It's cool how his shoulder can act as a bit of a plug, like his armour is a power bank for science equipment, fucking nerd. But, like, why not expand on that? Maybe he has some kind of equipment on his back, or like a touchpad on his arm to monitor stuff, like you'd expect him to be able to run diagnostics on science equipment or vehicles, if you can literally plug it into a fucking vehicle. Maybe add something onto his helmet, I don't know, some cool gear like from Reach. Something other than a pointy bit on his helmet that makes him look like a shit shark. I mean, Cinder is kind of cool, actually. It's supposed to be like a hazmat suit, if you know what I mean, like a gas mask, all that equipment to deal with containment of bioagents and stuff. Could do with some of those nowadays, if you know what I'm saying. But I mean, if that's what the designers were going for, why didn't they add like a kind of rebreather or something to him to make him actually look a little bit more like the job he's supposed to do? How about add something like an oxygen tank to his back, maybe? It sounds like something you'd need in an environment that's the oxygen is compromised in. So the design they've gone for here is cool, but it just doesn't evoke any kind of, oh yeah, this is a hazmat dude, in my opinion. Yeah, but it is alright. It's not something I could actually say is a horrible design. It's okay, especially if you've got it in the right colours. Before I go into the next armour piece I want to talk about, I just want to go on a tangent here really quick. I appreciate that names aren't exactly the most important factor to consider when reviewing something's artistic properties. Like, Breaker, I mean, that had a pretty accurate name, let's be honest, but I think they do hold value that should be considered, Mjolnir is the name of the hammer of Thor in Norse mythology, I'm sure I don't need to tell you. The common thing you hear that comes up when talking about Mjolnir is that you can only lift it if you are worthy, like the films say. But this isn't technically true. According to the mythology, Mjolnir was accidentally created with a short handle which already made the heavy weapon even harder to lift. So provided you were as strong as Thor, who wielded Mjolnir, you could lift it. No worthiness mentioned. In fact, people do lift the hammer other than Thor in Norse mythology. I bring this up because Mjolnir is also the name of the project that created the Spartans' armour in Halo. The armour is especially tailored to the candidates of the Spartan 2 program, who are turned into super soldiers. If anyone who wasn't augmented by the program decided to wear the armour, they would be mangled and crushed under its weight and power because it was specifically made for the Spartans. You must be worthy, or strong enough, to use Mjolnir, which is, in my opinion, the reason why they share a name. Names can have a deeper meaning than just demonstrating similarities, but that reason is just as valid. The Scorpion tank in Halo is called... That just dropped me fucking, The Scorpion tank is called such because it looks kind of like a scorpion. The Warthog has those tusks at the front. The Mantis, well, kind of looks like a praying mantis in a way, at least the arms do. All the alien vehicles have names like Ghost, Wraith, Banshee, Spectre, Phantom, Lich, all that stuff, because they sort of float above the ground and they make spooky noises. Demonstration. I'm just showing that a name is useful and it can be used in clever ways that ties into the reasons why armour looks like what it does. So why is this armour called Fenrir? Returning to Google, Fenrir is a wolf, presumably a giant one. again, present in Norse mythology. I'm not an expert on this stuff. I'm just reading off like some website that I've double checked. So what does a wolf have to do with this armor? I just do not see any resemblances in any way. It's just like, you know, not in the helmet. The helmet looks like a fucking sneeze if you ask me. But like, there's no any reminiscence of something like a wolf. There's nothing there. I mean, maybe the muscular structure of the arms kind of looks like a werewolf, I guess. Looking at it now, actually, I mean, I might just be crazy, but it kind of looks like it was designed for the female Spartan's avatar. Like, look how slopey the chest is on the male. It's like, it's pushed up and all sort of weirdly proportioned and the sides under his arms as well. Whereas on the female, it kind of clings to the body better, and I don't really understand why. It's, you know, like they designed it for the female, but just sort of was haphazardly rushed together for the male one. Just a bit interesting, I noticed. So I decided to see what I could do with the idea of making armor look a bit more canine, and I don't mean like full Power Rangers mode. I'm just saying influences. So this is what I came up with.
Yeah, admittedly, the main focus of this armor was the helmet, because I saw that as where most of the issues came from with the original one. I mean, again, like, look at it. It's what in any way, what does that have to do with a wolf? I just don't see it. There's no shape there. There's nothing. Like, what's with the cylinders? What do they mean? So yeah, that's what I based the actual helmet off, was a front-facing kind of wolf. And from the side, it takes more details from, like, the skull of a wolf. That wasn't my design impetus. I mean, I wouldn't have chosen a wolf, but that's... Why else would you choose the name Fenrir unless it had some kind of connection to what you were drawing? Do you get what I mean? It's, that's why I'm saying there's a bit more in a name than just a name. So, yeah, and I did a couple of sketches of the armour. The armour was more based on, like, the rib structure of a person, or maybe a wolf, either way. But most of the attention went into the helmet, as you can probably tell, because I did quite a few sketches of the armour here, and yeah, they turned out alright, but I could never really nail it down. But yeah, that's what I came up with. It just kind of looks more, you know, a bit more like old Halo as well, with like the rebreather on the front and that sort of triangle shapely piece over his mouth, and the visor, you know, over his eyes, like a sun visor, like he's gambling or something.
Where does he look out from? This isn't really a problem that started with Halo 5 again. It started with Halo 4, see a pattern here. But it is one that hasn't been addressed in new armour. What's the point of giving him a visor if you're just going to cover it up? I mean, look at him, he looks fucking sad. Pioneer, which is a returning armour from Halo 4, did used to have visor, but now it's been covered. I mean, both look fucking hideous if you ask me, but I mean, at least he could see last time. This one's probably really subjective because I have seen people wearing this helmet and they don't look like they're just dressing up to take the piss. But Hellcat, I mean, it just looks like a robot. How do you look through those lines? I mean, this one's Recluse, and again, it has that problem with it's just a big block on his head. And at least make the armor look kind of cool if you can't see out of it, but it doesn't. It just looks like he's got massive eyes and a big growly mouth, and it's not in a good way. Like, personally, I think Locus looks quite good.
The one you're seeing now, it seems like they've designed it off something. Like, it's a skull, obviously, and I can appreciate why someone wouldn't like that. In fact, it makes complete sense to me, and, you know, fair enough. But I don't think you can say the same about Recluse, because it's like, I know it implies it's being designed off like a spider, but it's not designed very well.
Restriction of choice. Okay, so this is probably the biggest issue with the armour in the game. Let's say you really like the chest of this guy, but you want the shoulders of this dude because they're bulkier and, I don't know, you like squares or something. Well, fuck you. You can't do that here. Yes, you could do it in older games. And another issue manifested because of this is the lack of ability to change armour colour. Combined with the system used to get these armour, it's so frustrating to get what you want. You will never luck out, or if you do, you know, you're going to have to wait for it, you've never earned it. And you might get the wrong skin of your armour anyway, so you're stuck with having blue bits on your armour that you don't want. Loads of people have complained about the undersuit of the armour in this game. How it sort of keeps the colour of the armour and doesn't stay black. I see a big argument is making the undersuit black and makes the armour pop and makes it kind of unique. You can tell all the shapes and everything that needs to be there, and I do agree. However, I think there's a much bigger issue with the undersuit that I don't see many people addressing, or at least maybe I'm an idiot and I don't see anyone
doing it, and there are loads of people, I don't know. The Halo 5 undersuit looks so much more detached than Halo 4. Look at all these armors, there is gaps everywhere. Everything looks like it could be ripped off, it's not connected properly to the Spartan. A consequence of this is that everything feels exposed, along with how I mentioned how there's no armor around the waist in any of these new armors. Take a look on the left. That's recruit armor from Halo 5, and on the right is default armor from Halo Reach. Look at how much is exposed in the Halo 5 figure, and it's like that for most of the armor made for this game. Reach armor just feels more protected, like the undersuit is reinforced, and a part of the actual armor, rather than the armor and the undersuit being entirely separate elements. And that's before you even add anything onto the armor. Like, there are weak spots, but you could, if you wanted to cover them up, you could add things onto them, like the knees, the knee pads. There's a big exposed gap there where, you know, you think an alien would shoot at. You can add bits onto it in that game. You can't choose what you add onto it here, so, you know, it's really, really frustrating, to be honest. Okay, so Reaper is actually the armor I wear in Halo 5. It's probably the best out of the selection I have to choose from, because, I don't know, it just looks nicest in my opinion. It's obviously very subjective, but most of what I think needed being fixed in this armor was just the tweaks of what I've mentioned about the undersuit and exposed areas, and making it look more like the traditional armor, whereas incorporating aspects of the new armor, because I think that is the way to go. It would be sad to see a lot of these designs go, because some of them are really good, as I've explained, or as I will explain, I don't know, edit that bit, because some of these armor do show kind of talent in design. It would be sad to see some of them go, so I would like this kind of mix of new and old, if you get what I mean, and that's what I've tried to do with this guy. You know, give him the old groin armor, make the actual armor connect to a more reinforced undersuit, get rid of the colour on the undersuit to make the armour pop more and make his shape pop more, and just make everything cling to him a bit more rather than letting it stick out. In conclusion, I believe that Halo 5's issues regarding the design of its armour can be put down to 6 reasons. Restrictions. Mixed with the awful progression and reward system in-game, restriction of choice and in-depth customization of your Spartan, including interchangeable armour and colour selection, hurts an already flawed selection. Apathy. The worst offenders in this video are the ones that clearly have been put into the selection for reasons of greed. Seeker, Breaker, Legionnaire, Tracer, and probably Recluse didn't need to be in the game. They are not final pieces. They are early drafts of the thing you make before you carry over the better ideas. Lack of familiarity. This issue started in Halo 4 but was not rectified by the time of Halo 5. Helmets like Freebooter, Atlas, Argonaut, Hellcat, etc. do not look like they belong in the UNSC, neither do they have the excuse of being cool like Hayabusa or Helioscrill. Over-detailing. Armour and helmets are cluttered unnecessarily, with random things and elements thrown onto places they do not need to be, and excessive detail put onto the visors of most helmets as well. Unoriginality. Armour that has the potential of being more interesting and contextually practical is not explored any further, while other pieces blend into all the rest due to this reason. Lastly, the undersuit does not equal armour. The art style choices of the previous game being implemented into this one have not transitioned well, with hardly any of the armour fitting correctly or even being practical because of this decision. This also affects any returning armour from the games like Halo 3 and Halo Reach, because they no longer fit this Spartan model. With all that being said, I could not sit here and just bullshit to you about how every single thing in this game is awful. I mean, I've probably said that in this video already, but it's not true. There are some shining examples of good design choices in this game, and I want to demonstrate them for you. All of the main characters, in my opinion, have really, really interesting designs and actually make sense to what they're supposed to be. Maybe besides Chief, because he's had better armour in previous games, but that's probably really subjective. I've heard a lot of flack being thrown at Linda's armour because it looks a bit like Goofy, you know, with all those sort of like big circles for eyes, and yeah, I can see that, but I mean, she's a sniper. She's supposed to have these kind of zoom-in abilities and cameras everywhere, and, you know, to monitor situations, and it may not look to everyone's taste, but personally, I've always liked it, and at least I can see why those decisions were made. Personally, I'd say the Hellcat armour looks quite cool. It reminds me of Iron Man in a way, with those sort of things. Take that as a good thing or a bad thing, but I'd say it looks pretty good. You know, even the back of the armor looks kind of interesting. It's got an interesting shape to it, and it suffers with those problems of having like gaps and not forming to his figure correctly, but at least it's designed well. Can't say the same for the helmet though. Right, you're gonna have to hear me out here, but I personally think Mako looks really, really well designed. Now, bear with. It still suffers the issues of, like I've discussed in previous armors, you know, like exposed areas. But when you remember what this guy has to do, it's in the name, Mako. He's supposed to be about, like, swimming, I guess, you know, working underwater. Then it makes sense. Like, maybe it was a consequence of just having the undersuit, but the undersuit kind of looks like some swim gear with armor on top, and it really suits the kind of activity you'd expect him to be doing. The reason I think they've got holes cut out of the shoulders is to make it easier to swim. It still presents some kind of armor, but it also makes it easy for water to pass through, and makes it easier for you to move around underwater. I mean, yeah, the little bits on the knee pads are a bit too small for that to have any effect, I think, but again, it shows that they've thought about this design, and I really think it works for what it's intended to do. Look at the back, for example. It kind of looks like an oxygen tank in a way. It's something you'd need underwater. You see these things making sense now? Like, when you put your brain power into actually designing something, you'll come up with something. They have looked at designs for underwater gear and, like, you know, underwater suits, and they've applied it to this armor here. The helmet, you can see the apparatus on it, like, you know, the cameras and things, and that is good, but it's a bit over-designed if you ask me. I don't understand why you've got to have that thing over the front, and where does he see out of? Personally, I'd add a different helmet onto this, like EVA, or I'd put here Warrior, and I think it looks much better, but I honestly can see what they were thinking of when they made this armor, and I've got a new kind of respect for it, to be honest. Taishin is actually an armor I didn't think too much of. I mean, I've always liked the armor, but I guess combined with the helmet, I just didn't think too much of it until I made this video. But now that I've looked at it and sort of assessed it, I actually really like it. I mean, it's nice and bulky in areas. There's too much paint and design on it again, but I mean, it kind of looks interesting. And it suits the description it has in a way, with like those knife bits on the arms. It kind of looks intimidating. And the helmet looks kind of inspired by Power Rangers in a way, in a good way. I mean, I've heard a lot of people complain about these new armors looking like Power Rangers, but I mean, I'd say this takes it as a good influence. Like Hayabusa, you know. Not every Spartan in the Halo military is a ninja, but I just think this armor actually looks really... you can see where they've pulled designs from, and I have a respect for it. Helioscryll. What more do I need to say? I mean, it's based on the Arbiter from Halo 2 Anniversary, or just Halo in general. It looks fucking brilliant. Achilles, again, you see what I mean by inspiration? It's inspired by old Spartan armor and Roman designs and shapes. It's really fucking good. I don't have it, I can't show you, but I've got a picture of it here, so, you know. And well, I mean, this was released during the process of me finishing the script, so I don't really know where I'm going to fit this in, but doesn't this screenshot prove what I've been saying? It looks like 343 Industries, to me, agrees with me. This is the Mark 7, this is the new base concepts of the armor that will be in the new game, Halo Infinite, I mentioned at the start, or reasonably at the start of this video. But look at it! I don't know, I love it, man. It's like, it harkens back to, like, Reach and everything. I mean, I don't know, I don't want to keep focusing on his penis armor, but I mean, it's important. You'd think, surely, yeah, it should be covered, and it is covered, and it doesn't look like it'd be uncomfortable. It looks like it merges with the undersuit. The undersuit looks reinforced, the shoulders cover the weak spots, there isn't many weak spots, the armor looks like it is a part of the undersuit, and I fucking love it. I really, really like this armor, and I cannot wait to see what else they've got in store, and I do hope they bring back some old ones, and I mean old as in Halo 5 old, but man, I love it. It proves everything I've said in this video. It's both new and it harkens back to old designs. It looks really similar to Reach, but in a modern way. The helmet looks great. I mean, I suppose it'd be like Recruit for Halo Infinite, but I love it. It just looks like Halo to me. It's not too badly over-designed. The chin sticks out a little bit, but other than that, I mean, I love it. It's so good.
And yeah, the legs just look identical to the legs from Halo Reach, and sort of the boots actually look like boots anymore, rather than just like a foot in the undersuit and some bits of metal on top, which works sometimes, but not in all the armors. But I'm very happy for 343. Please keep this up as the style, because I personally love it. I mean, if Chief's anything to go by, it looks like the armor in this game is going to be good. That's 2 out of however many they're going to give us. All of those armors I listed off have something in common. They are inspired by either a function or an aesthetic. They are designed to do something, or they represent something. The designers had a clear goal in mind and clearly drafted cohesive ideas and concepts that made sense. The previous armors felt lazy, almost like concepts that were shoved into a monetized system to squeeze every last fucking penny out of you. With all that being said, I thank you for watching my video. I didn't think it was going to be like 30 minutes long, but I mean, I thought it was going to be like 20, but you know, I guess these things it do be like that sometimes. I did have quite a bit to say, and I wanted to say it as thoroughly as possible, because I know this topic as well, specifically, has been covered quite a bit by other people. But I wanted to bring my take on it from a point of someone who might know a little bit about art and design. And I hope you can get something from it as well, even if you didn't care about Halo. I hope I hope you like it. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you next time.